In the grand kingdom of Everhold, nestled amongst towering knights who clanked like walking armories, lived Cedric. He wasn't just young. He was impossibly small for a knight in training. His armor had to be specially forged. His sword resembled a large needle, and his shield was barely bigger than a dinner plate, while others practiced mighty swings that whistled through the air. Cedric's strikes were swift but quiet taps. Whispers followed him, not unkindly, but filled with doubt. Sweet lad, they'd murmur, but destined for the library, not the battlefield. Cedric felt the weight of their words more than any armor. A constant, lonely ache beneath his breastplate. He spent evenings gazing at the stars, wondering if his dream was just as distant, driven by a fierce determination that burned brighter than his stature suggested. Cedric resolved to prove himself. He knew he couldn't win through brute force, so he honed other skills with relentless dedication. He studied maps until he knew every hidden path in the kingdom. He learned the languages of birds and the whispers of the wind. He practiced moving with utter silence, becoming a shadow at dusk. His agility was unmatched. He could dart through the legs of a warhorse or scale a castle wall like a squirrel. When the king announced a perilous quest to retrieve the legendary Moonstone Bloom from the treacherous Whispering Woods to cure the ailing princess, Cedric stepped forward, his voice small but steady, a ripple of stunned silence. Then gentle laughter filled the hall. Yet, seeing the unwavering fire in his eyes, the king, against all counsel, granted him the quest. The journey was arduous from the first step. The Whispering Woods lived up to their name. Ancient trees groaned, and unseen voices seemed to mock Cedric's size. Thorns snagged his tiny cloak. Streams were wide rivers to cross, and roots formed daunting obstacles. He faced creatures that ignored larger threats but saw him as potential prey. A sharp-eyed hawk, a prowling fox, even giant beetles with clacking jaws hunger not at him, and exhaustion threatened to pull him into the mossy earth. Doubt, his old companion, crept back in. He sheltered under a giant mushroom during a downpour, shivering, questioning if courage alone could conquer a world built for giants. The vast, indifferent forest seemed determined to swallow him whole. Deep within the woods, where sunlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy, Cedric heard a sound unlike the forest's murmurs. A desperate, high-pitched keening. Following the sound, he found a magnificent ruby-throated hummingbird, its wing cruelly trapped in a tangle of sticky spider silk woven thick between thorny branches. The more it struggled, the tighter the silken bonds became. Its tiny body trembled with exhaustion and terror, its jewel-like feathers dulled by dust and struggle. Larger knights might have passed by, focused solely on their grand prize, or perhaps not even heard the tiny cry over the clank of their own armor. Cedric stopped. The quest was urgent. The princess awaited, but the helpless creature's plight mirrored his own feelings too closely to ignore. Forgetting the Moonstone Bloom momentarily, Cedric approached with infinite care. He drew his needle-like sword, not for battle, but as a delicate tool. The spider silk was incredibly strong and sticky. He had to work meticulously, slicing one stubborn strand at a time, his fingers getting gummed up, his face inches from the thorns that threatened to scratch him. The hummingbird watched him, its tiny heart pounding visibly against its chest. It took patience Cedric didn't know he possessed, his arms aching, sweat stinging his eyes. Finally, with a last careful snip, the hummingbird was free. It hovered for a second, a blur of iridescent green, then zipped away into the gloom. Cedric sighed, wiping his hands. He had lost precious time. He turned back towards the deeper woods, his heart heavy. He hadn't walked far when a soft humming filled the air around him. The ruby-throated hummingbird returned, not alone, but leading a shimmering cloud of its kin. Sapphire blues, emerald greens, dazzling golds. They swirled around Cedric like a living rainbow, their wings creating a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves. Then, as if guided by an unseen signal, the cloud parted, revealing a hidden grove Cedric would have never found there. Bathed in a single shaft of moonlight piercing the dense roof, grew the Moonstone Bloom. It was more beautiful than any description. A single luminous white flower on a slender stem, petals glowing with an inner silver light, casting soft shadows on the moss below. It was small, perfect, And waiting just for him, Cedric returned to Everhold not on a charger, but on foot. The precious bloom carefully cradled in his hands, the potion made from its petals brought instant color back to the prince's cheeks and strength to her limbs. The kingdom erupted in joyous celebration. But the greatest change was in how they saw Cedric. He was knighted not for slaying a dragon, but for his immense heart and quiet courage. He became Sir Cedric the Gentle, a defender renowned for his wisdom, his connection to the smallest creatures, and his ability to find solutions where force failed. He proved that true strength isn't measured by the height of the warrior or the length of the sword, but by the depth of compassion and the courage to help those who cannot help themselves, no matter how small they seem. And high in the castle towers, people swore they sometimes saw a flash of ruby red amongst the flowers, a tiny guardian watching over the smallest knight.